Today I'm going to show you my method for oil painting, and it's a way of taking a photo, transferring it to your canvas that even beginners can do, and it kind of just simplifies my process for getting an oil painting quickly and easily on my painting surface. So I'm starting with this photograph over here that is a local scene near where I live. And this photograph, we made sure that it was already like composed really well for a painting. Sometimes you have to use your artist's license and change it around, but I don't have to do that for this one. So I'm just gonna look at the elements here. And the first thing I do is I look for what are my big shapes. And my big shapes in this painting are, I've got a cylinder here. I'm using a Sharpie on this. Ordinarily I would just use a pencil, but I figure you'll be able to see it better this way if I use this black Sharpie. So for drawing skills, you don't necessarily have to be able to draw like everything, but a basic knowledge of shapes and being able to draw your 3D shapes is really, really good. So start there if you're a beginner. So I've got a cylinder there and it's kind of facing that way. I've got a cylinder back here and it's facing a different way. And then I've got a third little guy over here. He's kind of off. I'm gonna move him. I want this one to be in my scene, so I'm gonna move this little one in. I'm just pretending that he's coming over there. So I've got my hay bales, and then my barn. Let's just look and see what shapes I have here. So here I've got a shape, and there I've got another one. The side of the barn. There, that's one side, and then I've got this here. Then the next part that I have that's going to be a section of my painting are these trees. Whatever you decide to do with the tree line, just really quickly. And this will kind of guide me as I start to put paint on my canvas. And then the next thing I want to do is make sure that I have some like really good leading lines in here. And so this particular scene has a few. So we've got a line that's going to come from sort of like that and like that. We've got a nice one that comes kind of there to show the different like layers in our painting. Okay, then I think I'm gonna add one kind of there, and I'm just gonna put in some little marks to show that I really want to make sure I'm showing that these, it's been mowed. So I want those little grassy lines to come down. And that's how I'm gonna start. Now, using just, let's see, this is a 1/2 inch bright brush. You can use whatever you have on hand. And I'm just mixing up a little bit of burnt sienna with some of my thinner, and I'll use that to sketch. And so, super easy to just come over here and get on there that first hay bale. And it doesn't matter if it's exactly the same proportions as that one, as long as you got the basic shape correct. So I've got this sort of oval on the front. I'm just gonna leave it kind of like that. You want your paint that you're using to be really thin with your paint thinner. Then, let's see, I can come up about to where I want my skyline. Well, not my skyline, but the edge of the field to go across. All right, and then let's just sort of sketch in, let's see, my little barn. I know that I had that roof shape. All right, so we'll get a similar shape to this one that's right here. And then I need to come down the other side. Got another little section to my barn over there. And then another little sort of trapezoid shape on this side. And then some more little roof that goes there. And then this end of the barn was a just a rectangle. And then I've got the front of my barn also. And so let's just pull down this a little bit. So now I've just got the basic shape of my barn in, super easy. Let's add that next hay bale. We see that it overlaps my barn a little bit, and it's considerably smaller than this one was. So let's make that face a little bit differently. It's kind of maybe going in a little bit more like that. And then this little guy way back here, it's a lot smaller. Just a little mark so that I know where that's gonna go. All right, now I can kind of just get this, and I'm using really dry paint so that it's not and I'm going to change this tree line just a little bit, just because I want a little bit more of an angle there. All right, so then if I just lightly do some directional lines that show me where my fields are going to run. There we go. And so that's how I would start my painting. Step 1, check your shapes. Step 2, sketch them on there. Now, let me just wipe this brush off a little bit. And we just need to start laying in some color. The first colors I like to lay in are my darks. So let's see, I'm gonna go in my green, and I'm gonna add a little bit of this burnt umber onto it to make a nice dark green. And then no thinner this time. Just go up into your trees and just put in those just roughly tree-shaped bits in. And so we're going to adjust those as we go, but I just want to just wash that brush off. I'm going to lay that down for a second, because the next part that I want to get in, I think, are these clouds, because they're pretty nice and light. Just going into my titanium white. I don't want them to be white, so let me just tiny little dab of my King's Blue so that they're just ever so slightly bluish white and not bright white. And I'll take these up and I'll just lay them in. They're peeking out behind those trees, that tree line there. If you end up picking up a little bit of the green color on your paintbrush, just quickly wipe it off on your paper towel and just keep going. And I'm not too tied to be exactly what the clouds look like on this photograph. I'm just kind of loosely going by that and just putting them in there the way I like them. There's a few little wispies up there. Then we can go ahead and lay the sky in as well. I like to use King's Blue and white. Let's get that in there. And I just go right up to the edge of my clouds. Maybe it covers some, maybe it blends with the edge a little bit, but right beside it, get it in there. And so the sky and the barn roof are really similar. It's sort of a shade that's in between the white of the clouds and the blue of the sky. So if I take that, one thing I don't have out on my palette is a black. So we're gonna create a dark color for mixing using some Prussian blue, some alizarin crimson, and some of my not burnt umber, dark. No, that is burnt umber. We'll use some of my burnt umber, and it's gonna give us a really dark purple looking color that looks really black on the canvas. And some fresh white. There, that looks nice to me. And I'm gonna lay that in up here on this roof in that first shape that we made. Not worried too much about making it pretty or perfect, it just needs to be in the right shape. And there we go. There it is for that first section. Then for the next section, you want to change the color a little bit. So let me grab just a teeny bit more of that dark mixture I made and just a teeny bit more of this burnt umber. And I've created a new shade because every time you change like angles on something, you want it to be a different, the color mix needs to be a little bit different. And this blue works really well in this roof color because it, you know, obviously that if it's a tin roof, it's going to be reflecting the sky. There's my other section of roof. And I can even use this color to add some of the shadows, like to show those ridges on the roof. Yeah, touch, touch. So, I feel like this section of the barn roof needs to be a little bit darker. And then watch, just get those sides in there. That's the dark side of the barn there. Just get them in. Then this side of the barn seems a little bit lighter. So let's get this in. It's cool if some of the underpainting even shows through. Some of that brown is fine. Trying to pull this down sort of wispy because the barn itself is really old and a little broken down. Let's see, get some more white. There we go. See how it's kind of wispy? Makes it look like old, just barn wood there. And it doesn't need to be straight on the bottom because we can chop that off. This time I want to lay in like my greens. They're going to be pretty light. So if I go into my sap green and then add some of this yellow, it's like a really almost fluorescent-y color. I don't want it to be too fluorescent, so let's go into I've got Naples yellow there. Just sort of a creamy, buttery yellow, and it's also really opaque. We could add a little blue. Oh, too blue. That's the fun of mixing paint colors. You can always just kind of go back and forth till you get what you like. That's kind of a nice green, but I really want to mix a slightly different one as well. So let's do this all at the same time. All right, there you go. I've got two different ones. Let's take that in the back. ground to sort of have a horizontal feel. So I'm doing horizontal strokes to get it in there. And let's see, I think I'm going to mix up an even different one. So that's yellow ochre and a touch of my Naples yellow. Let's see, let's go with just a tiny bit of sap green in that. You get a little bit golden. It's a little grayish because it's in the distance. I can start to just tap on. There we go. Got some variations in there. But with my horizontal strokes to get in some grass there. And so that's one of my sections where I've laid out that that's one of my planes. Let's do one over here. Maybe I'll get more of this golden color. And back to my greens. There we go, there's another section. And now to come down front here. Let's go with this sort of darker, so I have some distinction here. And if it's too dark, that's okay, because we can change it. Change that up as we go. But this gives me a change between the sections, and then watch, I can just kind of, so I don't have a hard line there, I just feathered that so it almost looks like just a little hill, a little rise in the ground. You don't want your sections to have such a too distinct a line in between them. Okay, now right under this hay bale, let's go a little darker because we know there's going to be shadow there. And then we also know that we want these little sort of ripple lines from the mowing. You're going to start off small and get wider as they come close. So let's just kind of put the hint of them in there. They're small there. And then back to our greens. Horizontal strokes, and we go. I really love painting outdoor scenes and the scenes of like the farmland that's around me. It makes it so I really feel connected to the painting because it's something that I love. Love being out in the country and how, even just like how the grass, like if you've ever been past a newly mown hayfield, and hey, if you don't live out in the country, just like somebody just cut their yard and just how nice that fresh cut grass smell is, that's like a painting like this, that's what you want to be able to sort of feel. That's what creates the connection with somebody in the painting. All right, you can just see I'm working in different shades of my greens with these darker sections that I laid down that would be going to become our mowed strips. And it's not going to look exactly like that photograph does. one thing is that I'm using this larger paintbrush, and that keeps me from getting too like delicate, trying to throw in too many little details. I'm just trying to keep it simple. Whoop. Look, there's a little variation. Looks really nice. And you can just leave that. Like, that's what we want, is it to look like it's a rough, bumpy, freshly mowed hayfield. All right, let's get this section up here up against my okay, so now the space, the changes in each of my little parts of the field are kind of subtle, but they're still there. They move your eye around the canvas. And then down here, let me start to get a little bit different color. And the way I'm going to change this color up is we'll go with the sap green again. And previously I used the Hansa yellow. Let's go with this warmer. See how much warmer this yellow is? It looks almost like an orangey color. It's going to give me a very different green than the one that I used before. There we go. Get more of it, lighten things up even more. There, that's a pretty green. You can even add some yellow ochre to that if I want it to be even lighter. And let's see, we can get that in. I don't want it to hit right at the top of my hay bale, so I'm going to adjust. And, well, maybe I'll bring it so that it's a little bit of a wider section than I had originally. This is turning out pretty smooth, which is fine. I'm leaving in my brush strokes again. Oops, look when I press my brush how much paint comes out. And we can imagine that's going to go behind that bale. Bringing out the other side here. I feel like this needs to be a little bit darker. And now I'm creating some foreground where these are in the back. It's a little cooler as I'm coming forward. It's a little more distinct and a little warmer because I used that cadmium yellow that's almost orangey instead of the other Hansa yellow, which is more lemony. Okay, I'm going to wipe this out so that I can, let's see. So right here in front, you can see I have a pretty dark shadow that's going to go in. So let's just block that in with our darkest dark bits. Let's wisp that up because that's going to be in the grass there. Shadow. And along the bottom edge of this we know is very dark. And now, let's see, what do we want to get right in the front? This cool color on my palette, it's called Lemon Citron. Look how like super bright and pretty that is. Kind of a good foreground color, don't you think? Definitely makes it pop. And we'll get this all blocked in with this color, and then we'll go back and adjust. Now, one thing that we haven't done is finishing out our trees, so let's go back to that. I just need this brush to get clean. Ah. Okay, so we've got just roughed in tree shapes back there. And if I want to add some highlights on there, I can go with one of my grass colors, or let's see, this citron yellow mixed with a little bit of sap green might make a nice highlight color. Let's test it out. And then wherever I want to create like a little tree shape, I can lay it in on just the edges. And now I've got a clump of trees back there that's pretty and green, but with the shadow color that I already had showing through. And this also needs some darker darks laid in on the underside, so let me do that. And look how that immediately pushes that like forested area back a lot. I'm using that dark purplish color that I made earlier. Some darks. And now I've got like a separated out section of trees there. I can take some darks here and work these in. And you'll be able to see that it's just sort of carving out some tree shapes back here. So let's grab more of that citron and more of this sap green, maybe a little blue. It feels too warm. Okay, now I can come in and add some more little highlights. And this time, if you wanted to go up into your sky to create some little spots where the clouds are showing from behind, you can do that. That one got quite a lot of cloud color kind of mixed into it, but that's okay. I'll just come back. I don't want them to be too detailed up there, so. But now we've got a line of trees. Let me. And you can use any of the greens that you mixed for your grass also to create little variants in your trees up there. If you need them to be darker, you could go with some brown or some purple mix. Some little trees that really stand out back here. Maybe I'm going to go pure citron to create that little clump. Make them stand out from the others. And see how now all of a sudden I've got trees back there. They all need that shadow at the base. Could look like they're anchored back there, and I'm using my mixture that was sap green and burnt umber. There we go. This one might be a little bright. I think I'll knock that down with some darker color. But that's the basic gist of how we get that tree line in there. We might want these guys maybe need to be a little bit lighter, these closer ones. Now there's like two rows of trees, one that's closer, one that's further back. So there's going to be zones of light and dark here. And so one spot is this is the end. And so let me get that laid in there. That's probably a little lighter than I want it to be, but we'll adjust it. Just get it laid in. Let's get some of this dark. Because we want to create the center, make it look like it's rolled up. I don't want to go over it too many times because I want to just be like the impression. There we go. All right. Then I can see that on this one, on the side over here, it's got a much lighter spot where the sun is really hitting it. So I'm gonna just take my dirty brush with a little bit of white on it to create this next line. And curve that brush stroke over because you want to get that good feeling of it's rounded. There we go. And so that's the lightest section. Maybe that kind of streaks down a little bit. And then let me wipe this brush off. We're gonna have a sort of a section here in the middle. Oh, that's too red. I got too much of that. Way too much of that burnt sienna in there, but we'll work with it. Curve, curve, curve. As long as we get the shape in, now we can adjust the color in a little bit. We can get everything blended up nice. So that's sort of a medium tone on the curve. Then we have this darker section. So same dirty brush, but this time I picked up burnt umber, and I'm just gonna bring that up from the... My Haybale grew a little bit. And let me get that under control by getting kind of a firm edge over here on the back. All right, so now that's the back edge. And this top. There we go. Now I can just use my brushes to just kind of work between the sections a little bit. Just to blend just a tiny bit. There we go. So there's one kind of nice solid looking hay bale. I put some black out on my palette. Let's go ahead and just use a little bit of it. Work in some shadows, and I can make them really like angular and like they're, because there's grass there, so get some of those in, bring it up the side just a little bit. The more contrast we have there, the more this is going to look really nice and solid.